All right, y'all. That was part one. This is the beginning of part two. Um, I don't know. I'm not gonna go through the whole intro and all that again. This is, basically the same video, just broke down into different section. Part two is labeled the mammalian brain, and also the topic of this document is called "A Prison for the Mind" by Stephen J. Smith. All right, so the mammalian brain. I'm breaking on down. The brain of higher mammals, okay, the brain of higher mammals is capable of some astounding feats of cognitive precision. For instance, without knowing anything at all about ballistic trajectories, a dog can catch a frisbee out of thin air. Equally impressive, a cat is able to jump from the ground onto a narrow ledge, half the width of his own body. These feats are possible in large part because mammals are warm blooded. This allows their brain to process information at higher rates and with greater precision. Yet occasionally, the very strength of mammalian mental processing leads to catastrophic results. For instance, a dog fixated on catching the frisbee fails to notice an oncoming car and is badly injured. Or a monkey reaches for a branch only to find it's really a shadow and falls out of the tree. Events of this sort represent a failure of the mind to properly assess and respond to external stimuli. Cold blooded animals, with their more primitive reflex driven mentality, do not, as a general rule, make these sorts of cognitive errors. In other words, they just don't have the prerequisite mental agility in the first place to make mistakes of this kind. Fortunately, evolution cracked me. It's my fault. Fortunately, evolution created a backup system in the mammalian brain. It's based, at least in part, on the more primitive reflex style of cognition. It seems that whenever the normal mind makes a mistake leading to major physical trauma, all of the sensory forward slash somatic perceptions, along with all thoughts and feelings surrounding the mistake, are stored as is in a reflex driven avoidance behavior pattern. In other words, since the higher, more agile mental abilities fail to protect the creature from the life threatening physical trauma, the more primitive reflex driven brain steps in and creates the equivalent of a mental bookmark designed to avoid any further situation that resembles what is stored in the bookmark. Put another way, rather than learning from the mistake, the creature reflexively avoids any situation that resembles the one where the mistake was made. While less than optimum and a bit draconian, such behavioral constraints are justified when the mental blunder is life threatening. If all mammals lived as evolution designed them to, this reflex avoidance mechanism would be no more than a sporadic nuisance, affecting a limited number of creatures in any species in a limited number of situations. Unfortunately, the capacity of some humans to turn nature and evolution against itself in order to satisfy their own nefarious desires appears to have no upper limit. The reflex-based avoidance mechanism described above is the key behavioral phenomenon upon which the NSA depends when turning psychic children into psychic slaves. Okay, that was part two. Now, phase one of part two, shattering a human mind. This is where it's starting to get deep at. All right. Enduring the unendurable. Suppose you were strapped down naked on a cold metal table, surrounded by people you don't know, and subjected to excruciating pain day in and out for several months. Furthermore, you're only 4 years old and have no idea whatsoever why this horrible punishment is being inflicted upon you. They just keep hurting you over and over again. There's an IV in your arm and leather and leather band across your forehead. They use, they use a gelled form of acid to burn you in the most sensitive places on your body. They push sharp needles through your feet. They insert electrified probes into your urethra, anus, and throat. They have a stick with a cloth covered electrified metal ball at the end, soaked in salt water. It's wired to an electrical generator specifically tuned to elicit maximum stimulation of human nervous system pain receptors. They rub the ball all over your body, paying particular attention to those areas that have the highest concentration of nerve endings: hands, genitalia, feet, etc. How would you deal with it? At first you ask your captors what you've done wrong, but they don't utter a single word. They just keep hurting you. Next you wonder where your mommy and daddy are, why they don't come and take you away from this horrible place, but they never come. And then the torture continues day after day, week after week. You're always naked, you're always cold, and you're always scared. The torture sessions always end the same way. You pass out and wake up in a small closet-sized room. It's completely dark. There isn't room to stand up or lay flat. So you wrap your arms around your knees and cry. Your body hurts so bad, and nobody will tell you why you're here or what you've done to deserve this horrible punishment. Someone shoves a plate of food and glass of water through a slot in the door. The food tastes terrible, but you're so hungry you eat it anyway. There's no toilet. You urinate and defecate where you're sitting. The smell is awful. You cry and cry. Finally, there's a funny odor in the air, and you fall into an exhausted, fitful, dreamless slumber. When you wake up, your body aches all over. It's so bad you can hardly move. The doors open, and men grab you by the arms and drag you down the hall to a room with a concrete floor. They dump you like a sack of potatoes in the middle of the floor and use a cold water hose to wash you off. Next, they grab you by the arms and drag you back down the hall to the room with the metal table. They strap you down and the torture begins again. As days turn into weeks, as you ask yourself over and over again, what did I do? Why won't anybody talk to me? Why won't they stop hurting me? Where's my mommy and daddy? The memories of your previous life begin to fade. You begin to wonder. Where was I at? Okay, you begin to wonder if mommy and daddy were just a dream, and you start to wonder if you're going to die in this awful place. Okay, as time passes, you notice something. The men hurt you less if you don't struggle. At last. Here's a way to regain some power, some control over your situation. You start trying to relax, even though you're still being hurt badly. At first, it's difficult, but as the days pass, you get better and better at it. You learn to separate yourself from the pain, and the pain doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to someone else. Soon, you're able to look down at the metal table below you. You see that person strapped to the table being hurt. That person looks like you, but you're up here looking down. Ooh. You tell yourself over and over, that person being hurt isn't me. That person being hurt isn't me. That person being hurt isn't me. The separation is complete. You're now two people. The one being hurt and the one who feels no pain. Your NSA captors have successfully used massive physical trauma accompanied by stark emotional terror to invoke the reflex-based avoidance mechanism, thereby splitting your mind into multiple pieces. Each sub-piece is now a separate independent persona or personality capable of thinking, feeling, and acting independently of your dominant baseline personality. These motherfuckers is vicious, y'all. That's all I know. Okay. This is how you learn to endure the unendurable. Okay. Look, I'm not going to go through this whole document, man, because it gets dark. It gets dark. You understand what I'm saying? If anybody that's watching is interested in hearing more of this document, man, put it in the comments. Let me know. If that's what y'all want, then I'll go into it further. But I just did what I did with this just so that way y'all would know and understand the government. Yo, listen, man, it's a lot. It's a lot that the average Joe just don't know. You know what I mean? They got access to shit that, is 20, 30 years, 50 years advanced from where we at right now. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, man, truth is actually stranger than fiction. Let me just put it out there like that. If you've been paying attention to what I've been reading, it gets deeper, man. It gets into the torture team. It gets into a whole lot of shit, man. It gets chemical, biological tech, electrical, ECT tech, guards, eye in the sky, the torture session. It's crazy, man. So again, my main reason for showing this and reading this rather is to bring to light, man, how when I get to talking or anybody get to talking about mental indoctrination / colonization and social conditioning and social engineering and things of that nature, man, that's just for real. Don't be so far up your oppressor's ass that they don't do no wrong. That farts don't stink. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I make light of it, but it's serious as a motherfucker, man. It's serious. Because there's a lot of people out here, man, that either they just don't care, or they, the cognitive dissonance is kicking in, or they just don't want to hear nothing, contrary to what their ideology is of the government. And that's dangerous, man. You know what I mean? Because when you have such a tunnel vision, mentality toward a thing, then you could be misled. You could be. I mean, they can utilize you to do basically whatever the fuck they want you to do, because you have an impression of them that they wouldn't do no shit like that. Nah, not my government. It's time for us to wake the fuck up, man. Real shit, man. It's time to wake up, man. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. I'm just saying, you can't cry, because I know I ain't the only person online with a platform that's giving it up the way I'm giving it up. It's other people that's telling you about these types of things and the type of shit that's really going on. It's up to you what you do with the information. But anyway, man,